More likely than not, that 0.01% is all it takes to tip the scales of justice. Join us as Inner Circle legend Charla Aldous, Eleanor Aldous, and Caleb Miller walk you through the critical moments, big decisions, and bold strategies that win high-stakes cases and show you how to turn that 0.01% into a game-changing verdict. You're listening to the podcast where winning is more likely than not. Produced and powered by LawPods.
Welcome to our second episode of More Likely Than Not. It is the podcast for Aldous Law, a law firm here in Dallas that I'm a partner of. And I've got a confession to make. The younger lawyers in the firm are the ones that talked me into doing a podcast. And it's our desire to help other lawyers become even better lawyers than they already are and to give tricks of the trade from some of the best in the profession. And I think we have picked the perfect lawyer to help others become better lawyers, because with us today, our first guest of our podcast series is Brian Panish from Los Angeles. Welcome, Brian.
Welcome, Charla. It's great to be here with you on your first real podcast.
It's my first. I've actually been on some. I haven't listened to many, but I'm going to start, I promise. Anyway, Brian is, I think most anybody in the legal profession has heard of Brian Panish. He is the senior partner of Panish, Shea, and Ravaputi. They have offices in Los Angeles, Nevada, Arizona, and I think y'all have, 45 to 50 lawyers in your firm now, Brian?
Something like that.
Something like that. I bet you remember it when payroll comes around.
It changes.
And I got to tell you, Brian, I knew you had quite a successful record, but about 10 minutes before I got on this podcast, I actually printed out your bio. Dadgum, I think you are a big shot.
I've been very blessed with my career. I've worked with a lot of great lawyers and represented a lot of great clients, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I was reading, and your courtroom victories include a $4.9 billion, that's with a B as in boy, record verdict in the landmark products liability case Anderson versus General Motors. You've had over 100 verdicts and settlements in excess of $10 million, 7 verdicts in excess of $50 million, more than 500 verdicts and settlements over $1 million in personal injury, car accident, wrongful death, and business litigation cases. And I was going to go over through all the awards you've received, but they last about 4 pages. I think suffice it to say that anybody that goes to your firm website will see that you've received about every award of excellence in our legal profession. And I'm not going to ask you to agree or disagree with that, because I think they can go to your website and see it, but I can tell you had something you wanted to say.
If you've been a lawyer long enough, eventually something happens good for you.
I agree with that. And the older I get, the more I believe it. I think you and I have been practicing about the same amount of time. I've been in it for 40 years. How about you, Brian?
1984, December is when I passed the bar.
I can't do math. How many years?
40-some years.
Okay, that means you're probably a little bit older than me. I'm so sorry. You can cut that out.
I probably am, but I try not to be, but maybe I am.
We're only as old as we feel. That's how I see it. Well, let me start by asking you a little bit about your childhood and what brought you to the legal profession.
Well, I was one of 6 children. I was the oldest, and my father was a lawyer. And my father was, primarily when I was growing up, insurance defense lawyer. He probably tried, according to him, 500 jury trials. He was an excellent trial lawyer. Later in his career, he did handle some plaintiff cases, but he never really pushed on us to be lawyers, even though all my brothers are lawyers.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yes, and my sisters went to medicine, doctors. My mom was a nurse, and we lived in Los Angeles. We live in a good area, and I really wasn't thinking about being a lawyer. My dad would just tell me, "What do you want to do?" And I would say, "Well, I'm going to be a professional football player." And instead of saying, "Oh, that's never going to happen," like I might say to one of my kids, he said, "Well, in case that doesn't work out, you should just try to get good grades. And maybe you might consider going to law school." So I really wasn't considering it. I didn't make it to the NFL. I coached college football, went home. I coached and taught at my high school. It was a top high school, St. John Bosco, for football. I was a teacher in religion. And then I was offered jobs to go back to coach in college.
Wait, you were a teacher of religion?
Yes.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
either.
An
Wow.
all boy, 800 boy Catholic school, St. John Bosco High School. And it was, it's not a rich, fancy high school at all. It's a very blue collar school, but it was great for me. I actually had to go there in the end of my junior year for reasons we don't need to get into. They weren't good.
Well, I was
And
gonna ask you about that, but I
St.
guess I
John
can't.
Bosco is the patron saint for juvenile delinquents. So let's just leave it at that. So I went there and I had to live there with the priests and stay at the school 40 some miles away from my family. And there's no internet in those days. There's no TV. It's just study hall. And I just go in the gym by myself and play basketball. I didn't know one single person in the school and I couldn't get in trouble. So I learned a lot of discipline and a lot of self-reflection. But then coaching was hard, and I would have to move all around the country, and many of my friends were coaching, and I really wasn't up for my first job. I think I would have went to Weber State, Ogden, Utah. I really wasn't up for that. I finally was living back in LA where I was from, and I liked it. So I took the LSAT, never studied, just did okay, not great. Applied to one law school and got accepted. Went to law school. And the first day I was there, I'll never forget standing in the back of the room wearing like my college letterman jacket and some jeans and really long hair. And I'm seeing all these people, and there's nobody like me there. Everyone is completely different. And I hadn't really been doing a lot of studying for the last 5 years in college, playing football. And so the first semester, I actually coached high school football. So I didn't do very good on the academics. Keep in mind, I hadn't really done any studying in 5 years. I was also in a fraternity and a football team. It's hard to find time to go to school. But after that, I saw some of these kids that got better grades than me and very competitive. And I never wanted them to get a better grade than me. So then I started studying and I became like the number one in my class the last 2 years. But I really wanted to try cases as I knew seeing my dad and what he did and going to court with him when I was waiting for him to go home from school. I saw the competition and I really liked it. And I wanted to be trying cases. So right away in law school, I worked in the district attorney and I was doing preliminary hearings. In my second year in law school, I probably did 110 preliminary hearings, did like 5 jury trials. So I was going to work at the DA more than at the law school. And I really liked it. I was offered a job at the district attorney. It was the only one in my school. It's hard to get a job. But my dad talked me out of it and told me I should go to civil. The DA is not going to be as good. So I kind of regret not going there for a little while. But I started working in an insurance defense firm because they told me right away they would give me opportunities to try cases. So my first, like, less than 2 years, I tried 17 cases.
In less than 2 years, you tried 17 jury trials.
One of them was a plaintiff case. The rest, which was the worst case, it's like one of my friends, the worst case in the office. It was an insurance defense firm, and they always had a few plaintiff cases. And the low man on the totem pole kept getting the plaintiff cases because they weren't really good. And this was a really hard case. But I liked that. I knew it was going to go to trial. So I worked on it. I did the trial. I'd done a couple of defense trials before. I was maybe a 3 or 4 month lawyer. And it was a product liability case against Goodyear Tire and Rubber, where the tire had been repaired twice improperly. A guy's driving down the freeway, drunk. The tire blows out, loses control, hits another car, who hits my guy who doesn't have a seatbelt, gets ejected from his car and breaks his hip. And he's like a grocer at the grocery store. A nice guy, Pedro Servine.
So you're representing a plaintiff.
Yeah. And nobody in the firm liked the case, but I'm down there trying this case. And the lawyer, I'll never forget, the lawyer was friends with my dad. And they call him the preacher, as he looked like a preacher. He was very tall.
The lawyer looked like a preacher?
The defense lawyer. And he had the
Okay.
Brooks Brothers suit and the glasses. And I'm waiting to go see the judge. And I said, well, the judge is having a settlement conference. He goes, well, Brian, let's sit down. Let's have our own settlement conference. We sit on the bench. He says, you know, you're going to lose the case. So I'm prepared to offer your client $5,000. I said, well, his medical liens are like $50,000. So I don't really think he's going to take $5,000. So we tried the case. The judge was nice. Of course, I'm telling him, I never done any trials, really. And I'm telling the jury this. And the jury's deliberating like a day. And they asked for butcher paper. And of course, the bailiff, and they're all making fun of me and joke with me. And I don't know, what does that mean? They go, oh, it's a bad sign for you. But really, it means they're like trying to add up the money. And so I won the case. And I'll tell you that case, I found this expert that used to work for Goodyear. And his name is Russell Love. And he used to work at the company in these tire cases. And I ended up trying a big tire case, 20 years later when the Ford Firestone was going on. But the problem with the cases were there was no good experts, and nobody really had experience like the tire company. And when they're defending a product, whether it's a car, a tire, a seatbelt, they have professional
The
witnesses,
best.
defense. They know how to defend the product, the anatomy of the product, how it works, how they build the tire, how there's a road hazard or this or that, and it's rarely a defect, and blah, blah, blah. And I found this guy, and I was working him up, and he was good, and he worked there, and he knew all these things, asked me, and I had to take depots in Akron, Ohio, and he tells me what to ask. And 2 days before he's going to testify, I go over to his house. I'll never forget this. And I'm going to prep him up and see how he's doing. And he doesn't seem to be doing too good. And I'm saying, okay, well, he starts crying. And several days before, his wife had committed suicide in the other room and blew her brains out.
No.
And now I'm thinking, I'm worried about his wife. I'm like, my expert, what's going to happen to my
I want to be
trial?
compassionate here, but I
Right,
got
and
a
I'm
case
trying
to
to
try.
talk to him, and you think this is okay? You don't have to do. Oh yeah, I'm going to do it. And he did a great job, and we won. And that was my first plaintiff case that I ever won. And then, of course, I went back and did other defense cases. And
But I got some questions about that case. First of all, I want to back up, and then I want to ask you some questions about the case you just discussed. You said something that was quite shocking to me, Brian. You said you're very competitive. Did I hear you right?
you did.
I think undoubtedly probably one of the most competitive people I've ever known in my life. And I heard a rumor that you played football in college with some university that started with an F. Am I correct?
Fresno State University. That's right. And we were competitive, and we won, and it was tough, and we were undersized and undermanned, and we had a lot of grit, and it was a great experience to learn discipline, teamwork, get along with people maybe you don't like, deal with coaches that are on your ass like a boss, dealing with lawyers you don't like, and get along and be working together as a team. And whether it's being a lawsuit or in a law firm, there's going to be people in life that maybe you don't like, but you need to work with them and you need to get along. And in football, I mean, they're right there all the time. There's no avoiding them, and you have to get along. Otherwise, the team's going to suffer. And so, in a law firm, I always look at it as a team, and it's a team concept. And, like the quarterback, sometimes me gets all the credit, but it's the linemen and all the other people that really are the ones that put the quarterback in the position to be the star.
So you played football at Fresno State. You didn't make it to the NFL. You coached and realized that was really not for you. You taught religion at a school.
No, it was for me. It was for me. It was just I don't want to travel all the way around to make it to the top because I wanted to be the head coach. I didn't want to be this assistant, like getting the coach water. And my friend was the coach with me in Fresno when I left, and he stayed. And the coach like telling me he had like a pet. The mascot was the bulldog, and he'd take this bulldog called Halftime to practice all the time. The coach would have it, and he said to my friend Steve Scully, I went to high school with. He says, "Hey, Steve, Bulldog needs to go to halftime. Needs to go to the bathroom. Go take halftime to the bathroom." This is during practice. So this is his assistant coach taking the dog, doing whatever the head coach told you. And I wanted to be the head coach. I didn't want to have to do all that. I wanted to be in charge. And so I had to like reevaluate, even though I did go back later, maybe 20 years later, and coach a little. And then I realized I took the losses harder than the players. And when that was happening, I knew it was time for me
It's
to
time
get
to
out.
move on.
I like couldn't stand to lose, and they were like crying, and then 20 minutes later, they're hugging their friends outside like there was no game.
And you're like, come on, be depressed for a while. We lost.
Yeah, exactly. The game
Okay.
was played to win.
Let me move on to this first trial, the first plaintiff's case you tried. And I've got a question. I want complete candor. Were you nervous at all?
I think maybe I had what I'd call butterflies before the trial started, some anxiety, but I got to tell you, I'd never really been nervous in a trial, but anxiety sometimes and butterflies. Once you get in there, it's fine. But no, I really wasn't. that nerves. I had the same thing in football, like the night before the games. You'd be thinking about it, everything's running through your mind. Maybe it's hard to sleep. And I look at that like a butterfly. Then once you get out there and somebody hits you, then, it's fine. So it's
It's
kind
like
of
with
the same thing.
that first question, the first voir dire question, let's
Or
go,
the first
right?
ruling the judge makes against you in the motion to eliminate, then
And you
you get it.
smile and
And
act like it's the best thing in the world.
I don't know about that.
Well, I have to teach you how to do that better.
I don't really do that.
I'm very well aware of that. But let me ask you this: have you ever had a lawyer quote the Bible in closing arguments or anything?
Have I ever had one do it?
Yeah.
Just me?
Okay. Let me tell you what my response to you would be if you and I had a case against each other. You ready?
Yeah.
I would say when I was a little girl, my granddaddy taught me don't trust any preacher selling real estate or lawyer quoting the Bible. That's a good one.
Well, then I get to come back and rebuttal, though, and get you into another. I had a guy do it to me once. He tried to do something. He didn't say it that way. But in California, that wouldn't work. Maybe in Texas, that would work.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's the thing. You told us about your first plaintiff's case that you tried. How long were you a defense lawyer? Did you continue to do defense work for a while, or did you, after that first case, were you hooked and said, I'm switching?
2.5 years.
Okay.
2.5 years, a plaintiff lawyer who was well-known recruited me. And actually, that plaintiff lawyer used to work underneath my dad in an in-house insurance company.
Really? And you went to work at his firm?
Yeah, Brown Green is his name.
I know Brown very well. When you first started trying cases, Brian, even if it were on the defense side or the plaintiff side, did you know pretty much, okay, this is what I was meant to do? I like doing this.
I would say the more that I did it, and it's funny, I was just in another lawyer in my firm's office, and I was talking about this trial I'm in right now and how they might settle. I'm like, that'd be terrible, man. I'm having so much fun. And he says, well, you always have fun in the trial. What are you talking about? So I really like it. I believe that calmer during the trial. My family will say to me, man, you're in a better mood when you're in the trial. You should be in more trials because I just feel comfortable. It's what I want to do. And I just love going to the courthouse.
You're like a fish in water, I think.
I think that there's certain skills that I have that are kind of made for it, limited maybe to the certain area, but it's helped me.
Let me ask you this. You said you went to work for a lawyer named Brown Green, and you were there, I think, for a good number of years. When did you decide to start your own law firm, Brian, and why?
That's a tough question. But I really, when I won, you mentioned this Anderson case, the 4.9 billion. I always like to say 09, and the 09, the 9 is 9 million. But after that case, everyone thought I would just leave and set up my own law firm and, take all this fame and do my thing. But I was comfortable in the law firm. I liked it. I wasn't ready in my life to start out and do it all, to build it up. And they had obviously built the firm up before I was there. I helped, enhance it maybe, but they had it going, and Brown Green had won many, landmark cases. But I kind of had my own way I wanted to do things, just like when I wasn't the head coach. I wasn't the head coach. And I was one of a number of partners, and so I had an input, but I just had different ideas of how I wanted to do things. I wanted to be more multi-state practice. I wanted to do different kind of cases. I wanted to have more lawyers, and just different philosophical differences. They wanted to do their way. I want to do my way. They've been very successful, but I just decided I need to do it. And this is what I want to do. No hard feelings. I told them honestly. I didn't leave in the middle of the night. I didn't try to steal any cases, and I did it the right way, even though maybe in the end it didn't benefit me as much as it could. I just really wanted to take the high road, and I figured in the long run, I'm going to be better. It's going to be better for everyone. So in the short term, maybe I didn't make very much money right away, but that was okay. I was happy.
And how old were you, Brian, when you started your own firm?
I got to do the math. 40-something.
And having done that myself, that's a pretty big jump. I kind of just held my nose and jumped off the cliff and prayed the phone would ring. Were you kind of in the same basket?
I was, and everyone tells you, oh, you're going to do great, but you never know until it happens. So nobody ever says, oh, that's a dumb move. You're going to be terrible. They never tell you that. They're trying to encourage you. You're going to do great. Everything's going to be great. And you're like, well, give me them cases then.
Give me a case. I know. I was a single mom with 4 kids, and I thought, oh, my God, what am I going to do if the phone doesn't ring? And folks at my firm still laugh at me because I always come in and ask our receptionist, is the phone ringing? Because in the back of my mind, I always remember what it's
Well, I
like,
mean,
just hoping it
with
rings.
the plaintiff lawyer, the number one thing is to get the cases. And this is my old boss told me in that firm, that defense firm. He's from Oklahoma. I know I got to cut my answer down. He would sit, he had these cowboy boots and he had a big draw and he'd call me in. He says, Brian, let me tell you something. I could go down because I was telling him how great a trial lawyer I was. I'm like a 2-year lawyer. And he says, Brian, I could go up and down Wilshire Boulevard. That's the big street here. I could find a trial lawyer on every corner. But you find me some lawyer that's bringing in the cases, they can sit at their desk, put their boots up, talk on the phone, and smoke cigars all day long.
That is so
And it
funny,
really
Brian.
instilled to me, and so did Brown Green and everyone else that's successful, how important it is for the plaintiff lawyer to get the cases to clients to represent. You don't get to do anything if you don't have a client.
That is so funny because in the first law firm that I started at in my small hometown of Sherman, I asked my boss, I said, what makes a good lawyer? He said, a lawyer with clients. And that is so true. I don't care how great you are. If you don't have the case, you can't do much.
Well, I tell that to all the lawyers in my firm. I said, what happens if I walk down the street and get hit by a bus? You have to be doing it too.
You're preaching to the choir. So you jumped off that cliff and you started your firm. Was it just you or did you have other lawyers with you initially?
So it was me, 2 other partners, and 1 lawyer, 4 people. And we
Wow.
were in this little couple offices. And at the time we started, the one guy was in a trial in Orange County. So when we started for him, he's in a roof crush rollover trial, which is hard, against, I think it was Land Rover. I was in a trial in a multiple wrongful death. Immediately, I finished that case, flew to San Francisco, and had to try this other case that lasted 6 weeks. So in the first 2 months, we had 3 long trials.
And you know what's going through my mind, Brian, while you're saying that? I'm thinking expense, case cost, case cost. That's a lot when you're starting your firm.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but you get through it. You don't know, though, as you say. You hope, but if you work hard, and really what I tell everyone, my lawyers and all lawyers, your best advertising, of course, is the verdicts, number one. You
Right.
can be on TV all you want, and that helps, I guess, for some. But the verdicts, the lawyers know who gets verdicts. But also, it's the quality of your work. If you do good work and you do a good job, people are going to recognize that and you're going to get cases. But your work product and your results are the most important.
I could not agree more. Okay. I think I know the answer to this question, but what is more difficult, running a firm, a business, or trying cases?
Oh, there's no question. Running the firm is much harder. My dad, when I was a little kid, he was always like reading depots and always in trial. I'm saying, why are you always in trial? He says, well, if you ever become a lawyer, you will realize that going to the office is terrible. When you're in a trial, this is no cell phone. You are in solitude. Nobody can interrupt you. Nobody can bother you. And you're just focusing on one thing. When you come into the office, it's very difficult to get any work done. I don't know, some lawyers, like no one could talk to them. They set aside time. It's impossible for me. People are coming all the time to talk to me. And I'm an office lawyer. I don't like to be at home and sit there and do all this work. I like to be in the office.
A lot of firms have talked about that. I'm with you because after COVID, we all come back to work and we don't have people working remotely because I just don't think you can replace the collegiality and walking down the hall and talking to people by working remotely.
Oh, there's no way, Charla, that you can learn and be a good lawyer sitting in your living room.
I believe you.
You need to interact with the experience. I mean, as a young lawyer, I would go to lawyers' office. They'd be tired of seeing me. I would go in. What about this? How do you do this? What if they say this? What is this? How do I do that? How do I do that? It was amazing what the other lawyers teach you and are willing to do in the office. You just never get that.
I completely agree. Next question I have, Brian. I've always had a really small firm and have kept it that way. And you started off, you said, with 2 or 3 lawyers working with you, and now you've got 45, 50 lawyers. Was that organic that it just happened that way? Or did you always think, gee, I want to have a lot of lawyers in my law firm?
I never wanted to have more than 10 lawyers. That was
You
my
failed
goal.
that one, buddy.
I failed, but on the other hand, you need the resources to properly represent the clients. And if you're going to take on these kind of cases that we have, you need to have resources to match these big law firms that are going to have multiple lawyers on the case. And we put on a trial now, we'll have 3 or 4 different lawyers working on the case to compete with the defense and all the resources they put into these cases.
That's one thing I was going to ask you. So if you have, because most all the cases you have are high value cases. So you have 3 or 4 lawyers on every single case in your office,
The way it
or
works in
most of
the
them?
office, normally there's teams. So there's different teams. Some teams have mostly 2 lawyers, some have 1, some have 3. I oversee a number of the teams. But if I'm on a trial, this trial I'm in right now, so I have 2, more than, well, one's maybe a 10-year lawyer, one is maybe a 4-year lawyer, and one's like a 2-year lawyer. But I love to get the young lawyers to be in the court, even if they're not questioning, although I'm going to try to get the guy to
Right.
question. So just to be there, to see the whole process, to see how everything works, it's such an advantage. So when you're taking a deposition or doing interrogatories, now you know what significance it has in the trial, because most of it doesn't mean anything. And it's just a waste of time and lawyers fighting over motion to compel some ridiculous thing that means nothing. When you're in the trial, you realize what's important, what to focus on, how to close people out, how not to be surprised. And I think it just makes you a much better lawyer, and the experience is invaluable.
I firmly believe that if you haven't seen it and watched a trial from beginning to end, you really don't know how to try a case.
And now there's so many resources that I didn't have, you didn't have as a young lawyer. There's all these CVN and videotape trials and these seminars and so much out there for lawyers to learn and to get better faster.
But even though you can see the seminars, you can watch CVN, I don't think anything replaces actually being in that courtroom and listening to the evidence as it comes in. Do you agree?
Totally. However, some of the times, the first time I did anything was like in the trial. I'd never seen it or done it before, but that's the way it is.
That was me starting in Sherman, Texas. I didn't have a mentor. I probably was creating error all over the place and didn't know it, but I didn't have sense enough to know I wasn't doing it right. Kind of learned by trial and error. Let me ask you this, Brian. This is just more my own personal knowledge. When you are involved in a case now that you've reached the level of your career that you are, do you actually take depositions?
Depends on the case. This case I'm in right now is a plane crash trial. Almost every liability company depot I took myself.
Wow.
Normally that's not the case, but I've done a big fight with these other lawyers, so I did it all myself personally.
There comes that competitive streak again.
Oh, well, no, they just mistreated my client, so it's a long story, but no. But some cases, it's funny because I was thinking back, and maybe 20 trials ago, I did a depot in the case. Many of them, the first time my trial I just did in San Diego, the first time I did anything in the case was appearing for answer ready for trial.
But you read all the depositions before trial starts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the preparation, but I never met the lawyers. I didn't know any of the people, no one. I just show up, did the trial.
And let me ask you something else. In a case like that, where you've not attended any of the depositions, you're just making an appearance for the sake of the trial, do you have associates or partners or legal assistants prepare outlines for you for your cross examinations or direct examinations?
A little bit. But in that case, there was so much going on. All the I did it myself, my own. Because I was out of town, I was in a hotel, I didn't have anything to do. So plus I had 3 broken ribs. So I couldn't really do any exercise. I couldn't do anything. So I would prepare. And it wasn't a hard. There was maybe 10. No, there's 35 witnesses. So maybe I crossed like 12.
Yeah, and you left that little tidbit out. I think 3 broken ribs throughout the trial, and you were there every day, right?
And I didn't find out till after because I didn't want to know because it wouldn't have mattered. There was
I
no way I
remember.
was going to miss. I'm going to tell the other, said, why don't you just not tell the judge you can't come? I go, okay. Sorry, Judge, I can't come to the trial. I need a day off.
I remember you saying you were in a lot of pain, and then come to find out you had 3 broken ribs.
Because it kept bothering me after the trial a month, and I go, maybe there is a problem.
And indeed there was. How do you, Brian, your firm, what's the main way y'all generate cases? I'm sure a lot of it's by referral,
I would
but do you
say
guys advertise or any of that stuff?
no advertising. I mean, there might be like the website, but I would say it's a rough number. 80% come from other lawyers. A lot of cases, though, because I'm from here, I grew up here, I have a number of people that contact me directly without lawyers.
Just organic calls.
Yeah, some like judges refer cases, defense lawyers, and then advertiser plaintiff lawyers and other plaintiff lawyers that we know. If the case is, too expensive or beyond their maybe expertise, they might come to us with the case. But most of the cases come from other lawyers in the practice, not only in California, but in other states too that have California cases.
And one of the things that I've learned through the years, Brian, is the difficult part is screening cases and decide which cases we're going to take and which cases we're going to reject. How does your firm handle that process?
We have a system, but again, it's not perfect.
Is it patented, copyrighted, or can you share it with us?
No, I mean, we have intake people, and then we have lawyers. Like we have one guy, Peter Polos, who's a retired judge,
I know
and
Peter.
another guy that works with him that deal with a lot of the referral lawyers, because they want to know what's going on with my case. When am I going to get the money? When's the client going to get paid? What's going on? So a lot of times it's hard for the lawyers that are working all the time to keep calling these referral lawyers that want to feel the love that you're taking care of their case. So we have other people that have to talk to them. So not only do we have to make sure we're keeping the client happy, which is the most important, but the referral counsel, we want them to be happy and feel like we're taking care of the client. And if they want to be involved in the process, they can be involved, do as much or little as they want.
But when you have a case called in by a referral or an organic call, how does your firm decide, yes, we're going to take this case, or no, we're not?
Well, usually the main people look at it, the intake, then the Polos and them, and then if there's a question, they'll send an email to me and I'll look at it. I'm more difficult to get by to take the case because I've seen what happens. Whenever you take a case saying they're going to settle the case, it's never going to settle.
Notice, I totally agree with you.
Every case you take, my rule is you have to want to stand in front of the jury and try that case. And if I don't want to do that, I'm not taking the case. If I'm not going to want to do that, I don't want to be involved.
I have a little bit of a different problem. My office usually doesn't let me meet with the potential clients because I want to take them all because I feel sorry for them. But then
well, I mean, that's a good thing, but there's a business and these cases are not getting cheaper. And the way the cost of trying these cases is going up and up, and experts charge more and everything costs more, just like in life. So there has to be some balance. And I tell people, look, we are a for-profit business. We want to help you. In many cases we take where there's a low policy limit. We find out it's not, we just give them the money. And there's many what we call our pro bono cases. We do plenty of that. But we also have a lot of people working here, and we have to make money to finance the other cases and to properly represent the clients.
No, I get you. And let me ask you this. We always, in our firm, we always tell the clients to assume the case is going to trial. I don't think I've ever had a case where I tell a client, you've got a great case and I think they're going to settle. What's your philosophy on that?
I tell them this, 90+% of every case settles. When we start handling your case like that, you're not going to do well. We assume that every case is going to trial, and we prepare every case as if it's going to trial, and you need to expect that. And if it settles, that's great. But everything you do, you need to understand they might be watching you. Anything you do could come out. So you need to understand that whatever you do, you have to envision 12 people, that's how many jurors we have here, seeing that, and is that going to help your case?
I love that. That's pretty much the philosophy that we live by as well. And I think it goes without saying, Brian, the reason people can get good settlements is because the insurance companies know you'll try the case.
And you're preparing it to try the case, and you're showing up to try the case. Otherwise, your client is not going to get full and fair compensation.
I'm
no doubt about it.
2,000% agree with you.
If you're the insurance company, are you going to pay the lawyer that you know is going to settle a lot, or are you going to pay the lawyer that could hurt you in the trial?
And the thing about it, and I've seen it a lot in our profession, it's hard work getting a case ready for trial, and it's expensive.
If people don't want to do that last, bit of extra motions in limine and deposition cuts and preparing the outlines and the clients and the voir dire and the focus groups, And sometimes it's just easier to take the money, but that's not doing the best job for the client. They hire you, you're supposed to do everything.
You are their warrior, and they should not have to worry about it. You need to carry the load, right?
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Brian. You have how many cases have you tried? Over 200, over 300?
No,
Do you even know?
I'd say only like 170 or something.
Only
Only
100.
to verdicts. I don't know all the total.
How have you, because you try really significant cases, how have you accumulated so many verdicts over your career? Are you just in trial all the time?
I used to be. I mean, this year I've only been in 4 trials, but only 1 verdict.
Wait. We're in July, and you've only been in trial 4 times this year. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, I mean, but
Do you know
like
how
one of them
insane that is?
lasted 3.5 weeks, it settled. Another one lasted, 3 weeks, it settled. One went a month for verdict.
But Brian, I think you are aware enough to realize that most lawyers are not in trial 4 trials out of 6 months in significant cases. You do know that.
Well, probably, I don't know what everyone's doing, but
You
I'm not
most
really
certainly
worried
do.
about it. I'm worried about me and my client. So I hope
You know.
everyone's trying cases because it's only benefiting all the clients.
And it benefits your mental health, as you've already told us, right?
No, for sure. Now, it is a lot of work. Look, I was
Oh, it is.
in a trial earlier this year. I had 103 fever for 4 days in the trial. It was horrible, but I just went home, went to sleep. I was excited to get up and go do the trial.
And
I
you
had
went to
broken
trial
ribs.
and you went to trial with the broken ribs and high fever every single day, right?
I never missed a day in trial ever. I've never called in sick. I've never not shown up. Never.
Let me ask you this. Do you whine at all to members of your team saying, hey, I've got high fever and broken ribs, but I'm going to go do this? Or do you keep it to yourself, buckle up and go
Well,
do
they
it?
know that. I mean, I tell them, they see me like I'm sweating and they go, what's wrong with you? I'm like, look, here's my test. I got this flu. I had like a flu test that actually came back with some type of flu that I had.
Oh, that's nice. So you potentially infected your entire team.
Oh, there's just a defense lawyer who was sitting right next to me. He got sicker than me.
That's good. That's a good tactic. I like that.
Well, I didn't want to. He was a nice guy.
I know.
I didn't want to do that to him. I tried not to, but he was wearing a mask even.
Okay, here's something that I am very curious about. Did you just learn how to try a case by doing it on your own, or did you have? I know you said you went to trial with your dad some as a kid, but did you ever have a mentor teach you how to try a case?
I did. I had this one guy, I told you, the Oklahoma guy in my defense firm, taught me a lot. He taught me this lesson. This is a great lesson. Driving home from court with him and I one day, so we like killed him. And I'm like, oh, we did this and I did this and that. And he says, let me tell you something, Brian. There's no better thing driving back to the office, having a great day in court. But also, there's no worse thing than coming back to the office, getting your ass kicked all day in court. So what you need to do is try to stay in the middle. It's a roller coaster. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Just try to stay in the middle. But it is no better feeling than when you kick someone's ass and you're going home, you're like feeling pretty good about yourself.
And then the next day, it may be a day you'd rather be at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, I've been there. Getting your ass
too.
And you're sitting there and there's nothing you can do.
And you know what, I think I've mastered this better the older that I've gotten, is when you're getting your rear end kicked up one side and down the other, and you'd rather be at the bottom of the ocean. You just have to sit and smile and act to the jury like, oh, it's not one thing wrong.
I try that, but I don't know. The jury always sees it. They figure out what's not good for you. They don't, the lawyer, yeah, you try to give that perception. It's not a big deal, but they see it.
Yeah, but you do try to remain pretty stone-faced,
I
don't
try, but, at times it's all.
I got to ask you a question. This is the funniest story I've heard about you, and not probably the funniest, but one of the funniest, and I don't know if it's true or not, but you tried that Michael Jackson case, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, you had to bring that up.
No. Let's be real about it. You might have lost that case. It was a tough case, but it brought you a lot of publicity. And I can say to this day, I have a friend named Brian Panish, and he represented the Michael Jackson estate. People don't say, oh, he lost that case. They're like, oh, he represented Michael Jackson's family. So even though you lost that case, I think you would agree it brought a lot of good publicity for your law firm, didn't it?
Oh, I think, I don't know about notoriety, I guess, but
Notoriety.
It was a lot of work. It was 7 months, something like that. It was.
But I got to ask you a question I heard about, and tell me if this is true. I heard that you had one case going on one floor, and then the Michael Jackson case was going, and you asked a question, or a question was asked in the courtroom, and several lawyers on the defense side stood up, objected, and you went and opened the courtroom door and said, "Is there anybody out in the hallway that'd like to object
Okay,
to?"
so
Is
what
that a true
happened
story?
was,
Wait, first of all, is that a true
kind of,
story?
yes.
Okay.
So what
Okay.
happened was, I was cross-examined, and some lawyers, part of the team, is in the audience, objects. Uh, I'm like going nuts. I'm like, Judge, what the, you can't. First of all, there's one lawyer that's handling the witness is supposed to be objecting. Okay.
Right.
Maybe the other person tried it, but not somebody in the audience. So I did it. I went and I opened the door. I said, hold on a minute. And I said, the judge didn't like that.
Did he admonish you?
It was a her. Oh, yeah, she was admonished me. She admonished me multiple times, but she's a nice judge. I had other trials with her before, and other than her bad ruling she made on the jury instruction, she's fine. You know,
Which was a
they ramrod her. They had probably 70 lawyers on the case.
Oh, I remember watching it on TV. I think sometimes, you should always be courteous to the bench, but sometimes you have to take it to the line a little bit to keep the trial interesting and to keep the judge honest. And I know one time I was trying a case and the judge called all counsel, it was in federal court, back into chambers and said, "Miss Aldous, I'm going to give you one more warning. Don't you guffaw. Don't you roll your eyes. Don't you shake your head. In fact, don't you even look at the jury again." And I said, "Judge, I'm not doing any of that." He said, "Yes, you are, and you better stop it." Well, I saw him at a bench bar conference after that trial. We got a $366 million verdict, and he came up and hugged me. And I said, "I thought you hated me." He said, "No, I was just going to remind you every day who was in control of my courtroom, and it was me, not you." I bet you've had some instances like that in your career, Mr. Panish. Am I correct?
I used to do the eye rolling, but I've pretty much gotten not perfect, but a lot better on that. And I try to be better, but at times I'm not.
Let me tell you, in that case, it got to that point when I knew, when you know you're killing them to the tune of, $500 million, I earned the right. The jury was looking at me, encouraging. And I think that is a fine line that lawyers have to walk.
I think you're better off not to do it at all. I really do,
I agree.
even though I'm an offender. I'm not, I don't always practice what I preach, but I would like to be the lawyer that just looked straight ahead and never objected and never said a word. That was what I aspire to be.
Me too. That's my aspiration. It doesn't always work. Every now and then you just have to let it all hang out. But I've also told the young lawyers in my firm, one thing that irritates me is when the judge rules or a witness says something or the lawyer and they shake their head and up and down. I don't think that's helpful to anybody. Do you agree?
I agree, but I'm an offender of that too.
I know you are, but at least you try not to.
I do try. I'm not trying to
do
do it. It's just emotions get to me.
Yeah, I get you. Let me ask you this, Brian. What is your favorite part of a trial?
Probably the cross-exam. Everyone would say this is a standard answer, cross-examination.
How about voir dire? Do you like voir dire?
I like it, but it's not my favorite part. There's a lot of restrictions by judges. They don't just let you do what you want to do, so it's a little more difficult here. But I like it. I like the final argument part. I like the direct. I like all the parts of the trial. They're all different. They're all fun. But the voir dire, I like it. I think I could do okay on it. It's just, something that the judge, what I don't like is the judges really don't give cause challenges when they should.
That is horrible.
That really, because the judge is worried about getting the trial done. They have their next trial. They're going to run out of jurors. When jurors say that they cannot be entirely impartial on whatever the issue is in the case, how can they let that person on the jury? And there's other reasons they have. And I think it really can skew the verdict. One or two of these jurors that shouldn't be on there that get on the jury, it's not right. But I understand where the judge is coming from. If you have a good judge that really is going to listen and not be in a hurry, voir dire is fine. But a lot of times in my last trial in San Diego, there were 50-some jurors. I had like 45 minutes to question every one of them. How can I really thoroughly and adequately question those jurors and determine who I should get off for cause and not?
When you are actually involved in a trial, when you show up, do you usually do the voir dire or do you let others on your team do that?
No, I always do it.
What other, if Brian Panish is in the courtroom on a case, what can we know for sure you are most likely going to do?
Well, it depends who's there from my firm. because some of them want me to do, like in the San Diego case, I didn't know
Be
anything.
careful. People are going to listen to this.
That's okay. And they're trying to make me do every witness in the trial. I'm like, hey, man, I'm like, I can barely stand up here. It's like the voc rehab. You can do that. Just question the voc rehab, okay? Give me like a 2 hours off because I'm literally standing questioning every witness all day, every day.
That's a lot.
Some guys and women in my firm, they want to do everything, and they're trying to tell me they want to do it. Now, I don't know, let them do everything, but I'll let them do stuff. I've been in a trial earlier this year in a heavy duty product liability against a huge Chinese company. And Jesse Creed, a new partner in our firm, he gave the opening statement. He had done all the work on the case. He had done all this. He had never given an opening statement in front of a jury. And I said, you did the case. You deserve to do the opening statement, but I'm going to make you practice and I'm going to watch you. And if you do that, I'll let you do the opening statement. And so he did the opening statement and he practiced and he did it. But for sure, most of the defense experts, I'm going to question.
Yeah.
For sure, I'm going to be giving the final argument. Although occasionally I have let others do some of it.
Do you do the rebuttal as well?
I would like, usually,
Yeah.
even if they were, but I've done trials with other inner circle members or other lawyers where, we just split it up and they do some. I've done in an ASR product case I did with Mike Kelly. I picked a jury. He gave the opening and we split up the final argument and the witnesses. So I don't have to do everything. I don't necessarily want to do everything because I think it helps the jurors to hear other people, even if they're younger lawyers, not as experienced. They like that. They want to see the other people. They root for them. They want to see them have an opportunity, and maybe they get tired of hearing from you too. So I don't think it hurts to let other people do things. But on the other hand, I am kind of a control person, and it's hard for me to give up control.
I've heard different people talk about how quickly jurors make up their minds, that their minds are made up after opening statement or after one witness. Some people say they wait for closing. That's the most important part of the trial. Do you have a view on that in general?
Yeah, case is over when the jury's picked. Pretty much. I mean, based on the focus groups I've done and all the things I've learned, you could try the best case as the greatest lawyer. You got a bad jury, you're not going anywhere. It's all about the jurors being unbiased, open to hear your case, not like totally for the plaintiff or totally, but if they're open and then listen, then I think you're going to win.
Another thing, Brian, I was asking you what you like to do the most, but then I was going to ask you, what do you think the most important part of the trial is? And I think voir dire, because it's the 12 people you get in that box.
And it's over. No lawyer is convincing, in my opinion, the jury to go their way in the final argument. That's my opinion.
And I think people think that all the time. I think it helps their egos, but I totally and completely agree with you.
And they always say the final argument's for the lawyers.
Exactly. Show off a little bit. Okay, let me ask you this. We talked about trials and how you got started, and now we're talking about once the jury's in the box, the trial is over. So what has your firm done? Because we've all evolved in what we do to prepare for trial. We've heard of focus groups, raw data, big data study groups, jury consultants, all of that stuff. And some people say I do it old school. I don't do focus groups. I don't do big data studies. Other people say I do it all. I do 12 focus groups every trial. How do you guys do it generally? I'm sure it varies from case to case, but generally, how do you do it?
It varies, but I've probably done everything you said. One thing that you didn't say that I've done recently, I didn't do it in my last case, but when I was trying the sex abuse case a year ago, I did it. I did a mock voir dire. So in Las Vegas, we have an office that has a courtroom. So I got a bunch of jurors, spent a half.
So let me ask you this. How did you get those jurors, Brian?
We just found them through a company, a marketing company.
Okay.
Got them to come to the office. And it didn't matter where the venue was. It was just getting the role on the certain questions, responses, and dealing with those. I thought it was very, very helpful.
Did you yourself do the mock?
Yeah, I did it myself.
Wow.
And then another lawyer at my firm did the defense that was doing the trial with me.
What about focus groups? Before a case in your firm actually goes to trial, is there usually at least one focus group done?
Yes, but we're going more from the live to the big data, the many, 300 people.
Yeah, I know John Campbell is the person that we use for the big data study.
Two people that we use. He's one, and there's another one, John DeNove,
DeNove, I couldn't remember that name.
out here in California. I've used both on a case. My last case, what I did.
Wait. You used both of them on the same case?
Yeah, different times.
Okay, I've got to ask you, how did that turn out? How did the study turn out comparatively?
Good, but listen to this. So the last trial in San Diego I did. So we did one before. I think we did it with Campbell or DeNove. I'm not sure. But then once almost all the evidence were in and we knew the jury instruction, there was a 4-day break. The judge had to go to his kid's graduation from law school. So then we took all the evidence, the jury instructions, and the ask, how much we're going to ask for. Because the one thing that I've used them for primarily, one of the things, is like how much to ask for. And I'll take it and say, ask for 25, 50, 100. What does it go? What are the reactions? What is the right number? The sweet spot where you want to try to go. So the jury came back on the focus group, which it kind of gives you a little confidence too, but we were killing them and the verdict range was right about where they were. It's amazing. But I find a lot of helpful stuff from that.
And another thing that I found helpful in the big data studies, like you said, Brian, is we'll ask, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, afraid that we're going to offend people by asking for the higher number. But every time I've done it, and I've not tried a case without a big data study in at least 2 or 3 years, is the higher the number is that you ask for, the higher the verdict is. And they really don't get mad when you go for those
I've
big
seen
numbers.
it kind of go the other way. Depends on the case. Because if the
Okay.
case is not $100 million case and you're asked for 200 million, or you could get some backlash. And I saw it in another case that we just did in Van Nuys, but we refined the number and they gave maybe 75% of what the number was.
When you do the focus groups, is it more for issue spotting or for damages evaluation?
It's for all, what are the arguments? You put forth the different ones. What are they like? I've taken them, for example, in wrongful death cases and taken the elements of damage in the jury instruction and had them rank them and what they wanted to hear on each element and which ones they put the most money to and emphasize those in the trial.
Very interesting. Not going to get into it much, but I told you about a study we just did on a case that was about to go to trial a few weeks ago with Robert Hirschhorn's new AI verdict hub, which is amazing. That's taken us to a whole new level. Anyway, we're running out of time. There's some topics I really, really want to discuss before we let you go. And thank you so much, Brian, for agreeing to do this. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
What, in your mind, what separates the great trial lawyer from the good trial lawyer?
I think number one, being able to try any kind of case. Not just doing this kind of case. You could do any kind of case. I think number two is the ability to synthesize complicated things into real, common, everyday language and concepts. And I think the passion, I always, as a young lawyer, I would do my argument and then I would just say, and you should give 25 million. And I'd be like waiting for the people to react that way, right? Because I really didn't have any rationale. I would just say it.
Yeah.
And if you have a rationale and you have passion, and if you don't believe it, they can tell. So when you give them that number, you got to really believe it because you can't sell something you're not believing in. And at times I would say the number and I'd be worried like what the jurors would, rather than confidently saying, this is what it is, this is what it should be. So I think that, and of course, I think being able to adapt to situations, whatever they are, quickly and trusting, having good instincts and trusting your instincts. And of course, you have to prepare and do all the other stuff, which
Right.
everyone has to do. Although I've seen people that could go into the trials that haven't had a lot of preparation and do real well, but not as much today because of so much discovery and the quality of the other side and the money that's spent. It's hard to just kind of wing it on a more complicated case today.
Another thing that I think is important, Brian, is I think you can smell fear a mile away. Don't ever let them see you sweat. Of course, unless you have 103 or 104 degree fever. Do you agree with that?
Oh, totally. But I mean, I've never been afraid. I've been concerned, but I'm excited to be there. You only get afraid like when the jury's out. That's the only time that, for me, the hardest part of the trial is when the jury's delivering, because you have no control, you have no idea, and that to me is the hardest part of the trial.
It's a sick feeling when they knock on the door and say they have a verdict. Every time my stomach turns, I'm like,
I
oh
don't
my
even want to hear.
God.
Here they do like the buzzes. I don't want to. The first time I heard that, I almost had a heart attack. So I wait outside. I don't want to hear those buzzes. They'll wait till they tell me, and then
You wait till they tell you, then you come to the courthouse?
no, I like wait outside. Sometimes I'll leave. It's hard to be there. The last
I
case, the
know.
jury was out for 2.5 hours only, so it didn't take long. But it's a terrible feeling. I don't like it at all.
Speaking of that, I've tried to counsel the lawyers at my firm that if you're going to try them, you're going to lose some. And good lawyers have got to know how to kick it off and get up and go do another one. How do you handle losses, Brian? Maybe if you've ever had one.
I want to tell you, I haven't lost that many, but I've lost cases. My dad would tell me again, any lawyer tells you never lost a case, they ain't tried very many.
Right.
When I lost, I hate to say that, the Michael Jackson case, I had not lost a case for 23 years.
Whoa.
I was worried the whole time, how would I handle losing? In my life, in the athletics, I mean, all the teams, they were always like winning the championship. We're always winning, whether it's a little kid sports, high school, college, all of you, winning, winning, winning. And I was very proud of myself of how I handled it. And now the rule that I put on the people in the firm is this. It's a 24-hour rule. You could celebrate as much as you want when you win for 24 hours. And you could be as sad as you want and cry and do whatever you want when you lose. But in 24 hours, it's time to go to the next case. And
I love that rule.
I like that. And look, I've lost, man. I mean, I know that feeling.
It hurts.
When you get defense. Now, a couple of times I got lost. I lost out a high-low where I got money. So it wasn't quite as bad.
It's not quite so bad.
It wasn't quite as bad. One time the defense lawyer looks at me, so happy he defends me. Then he goes, oh, and he realized I'm getting like $4 million on the low.
You're getting paid.
But no, if you're afraid of losing, you're in the wrong business, because you're going to lose a case. I've never lost a case, though, that I thought I won for sure. Well, every case I lost, I think I won in the courtroom. But when I look back what I lost, I probably didn't have the better case. And that's really, the lawyers are important, but really the facts in the case determines who's going to win. But what is a win? Some lawyers claim they got a win, but it's less than they offered. Or, there's different ways to measure what is a win.
Brian, one thing I've always noticed about you in the years I've known you, and one of the many things I admire about you, is anytime you talk about a case, you always talk about the client. When I hear you congratulate lawyers on a win, you never say just congratulations to you. You say congratulations to you and your client. That's the way you handle cases. And how do you instill that type of value in the lawyers that work in your firm? Because I think sometimes in this profession, we get caught up with the money, the accolades, all of that stuff, and we lose sight of what really matters, and that's the client.
Well, as we talked about in the beginning, if you have no client, you're not doing anything. And the reason that I do that, the reason I like it so much is because of the clients. And each client has their own little story, and they have their own little things. And these people, I would never meet them in my life. And I love, the clients. My last client was a guy was in the Navy. He was working for the government in submarines, and he lost his leg. And in his whole story, and he was deployed to Iraq. And the next guy was a Persian immigrant who's in a coma, who was, moved to America. And each client is so different and has this different story that I realized why we're doing this. And it's for the clients, and the clients make all this possible for us to get a big verdict or to be successful, to have a big law firm. All of that is driven by the clients. And when you lose sight of that, you're not doing it for the right reason. And people are into the money. Of course, everyone likes to make money. Me too. I'm not against people making money. I'm a capitalist too. But when you put that in any way just a little bit ahead of the client, then you're going down a slippery slope, and it's not going to be a good thing. And that's not why plaintiff lawyers become plaintiff lawyers, to help people.
And I've often thought when I interview clients or getting ready for a case and I see the tragedy these people have been through, I think, good gosh, it reminds me not to complain about anything in my life. But let's face it, it takes an emotional toll on us that deal with tragedy all the time. How do you personally, Ryan, handle the stress and the emotional weight of representing people at their darkest hours?
I mean, I think you got to be strong for them, and they're looking to you, and you got to feel their pain. And I think you got to do other things. You can't be 24/7 on the case, although it's easy for me to say that because when I'm in a trial, I usually am 24/7 thinking about the case. But I think that maybe over time you get used to it in a sense, not used to it, but you're a little immune. When I first started off, when I'd see some of these people coming in a wheelchair or disfigured or burns, had a lot of product liability, horrific burn injuries. And when I first would see some of these clients, I mean, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. But eventually you kind of build up I don't know, this is like a little wall that you can still focus on the case and not let that take away from what you're trying to do for the client. But it's terrible. I mean, these people, the ones that we deal with, they've had horrific things and usually no fault of their own.
We've known each other for quite a while now, Brian Panish. What, a couple of decades, maybe?
I remember the first time I met you, but I don't know what year it was. I would say it's about maybe 20 years.
Yeah, I got an inner circle in 2007, so I think maybe
So
it
that's
was,
when I met you, 2007. So
wow.
18 years.
We're not getting any younger. Last question, and I really can't wait to hear the answer to this question. You are well known throughout the nation, if not internationally, as being one of the best trial lawyers of our generation. And it's, in my opinion, something that is very, very well deserved. But when you think back on your life, Brian, and think back on the legacy that you will leave, what do you want that legacy to be?
Well, it's a broad question. But in the law, let's take that part. I want to be known as a lawyer that helped mentor young lawyers. I want to keep my firm here when I'm not here, and they're going to know that they're still there for many, many years to represent victims. I want people to know that I've given back and helped others that aren't as fortunate as me, and that I've always kept my word and been honest and done what I say what I do and had the highest integrity.
I love it. I know you would have preferred to have been an NFL player, but other than that option, can you think of anything else you would rather do more than represent victims in a practice like you have?
Other than own an NFL team, no.
So we moved up from being a player to own the team.
I would like, but no. I tell everyone I have the greatest job. They always say, well, you made all this money, you won all these cases. Why don't you retire? I said, I love my job. Most people have to go to work. They don't like their job. Many lawyers don't like their job. I've never, ever in my life as a lawyer, 40 plus years, even when I was a law clerk working two jobs, I never had a day when I was going to the office or the court saying, oh man, and Michael Jackson, a couple times maybe. But other than that, never, I mean, the media and the people on you, but never have I said, oh man, I got to go to the office or I got to go to court or I got to drive 2 hours to go to this place. Never. I never had that feeling. I never said, although I have felt sorry for myself in the summer late, I'm in the office working and everyone else at the beach. And I'm like, here I am. Well, where's everyone else? But that's just, when you're doing all this, you think those thoughts, but you keep doing it because I
I
think
know.
we're very lucky. I mean, for
I
me,
was
I
starting to
can't
say
even
that
think
word.
that I could have this job, get paid, have so much fun, and get to work with all these great people and these great clients. I'm very blessed. I'm very, very grateful. I'm grateful every day for what God gave me and the blessings that I have. And I recognize it. I didn't do it all by myself. There's many, many people that have helped me, but I couldn't ask for a better job ever.
Well, our profession could not ask for a better role model than you. And I am very, very proud to call you my friend. And thank you for being on our first real episode of More Likely Than Not. What do you think about that name, by the way?
When I heard it, that's all I argue because there's no more preponderance of the evidence in California.
Right.
It's more true, likely true than not true.
Then not true.
And I argue that to death on every case. So I like the name. I really like the name.
I had nothing to do with it, but I like it too. For those of you who've been listening, thank you for joining the second episode of the Aldous Law podcast, More Likely Than Not. We are here to joint venture cases with you, answer any questions. If you have any suggestions of things you would like to hear on future episodes of our podcast, you can email us and get a load of this. We have our own email for the podcast. Email us at info@morelikelythannot.com. Thank you for being with us, Brian Panish.
Thank you. My pleasure. Appreciate you.
I think you can tell, and we at Aldous Law here, we actually kind of like each other, and we absolutely love what we do. And we work a lot of our cases up from the get-go, but we're brought in on cases a lot. We try cases all across the nation. If you have a case that you're interested in talking to us about, we'd love to hear from you. We've tried everything from trucking, workplace injuries, explosions and burn cases, dram shops, rideshare sexual assaults, birth injury, your personal injury cases. If you need a partner to help you with your case, please call us. We can be contacted at aldouslaw.com. We'd love to hear from you.
You've been listening to More Likely Than Not, where the Aldous Law Team turns small margins into massive victories. Love what you heard? Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now, leave a review, or share this with a fellow trial warrior. Remember, we're all just 0.01% away from tipping the scales. Produced and powered by LawPods.